VMwareVideos.com.
I'm Eric Siebert from vSphere.com.
And this is a special edition vChat from the VMware Cloud Infrastructure launch event in San Francisco. We're honored to be present here at this historic day for VMware, where they announced vSphere 5 and so much more. So, what do you think, Eric?
It was great. I mean, obviously we knew what was coming. We've been briefed over the last few weeks and months. I've been involved in the beta and that, so we've had access to all the features and functionality. But it's good this event kind of was the culmination of all that into the public-facing side of it and getting the word out and that. And I think there was definitely a lot of excitement about this launch, and I think they did a good job. And just this little, it's kind of neat. It's not like your typical launch event where this is like a pretty intimate setting. There was only, I'd say maybe about 20 people, a lot of VMware employees, but about 20 of the press and the bloggers total in there. A little small event, and we had Paul right in front of us and Steven in that giving the message out. But it was a good event. I liked it a lot, and they really did a good presentation on it. And obviously we covered all the features, what's new in vSphere 5, and the vision, of course. How the vision's all shaping up. And then, of course, some of the bad news of how the licensing is now going to change. I kind of found it interesting how they transitioned from Paul coming out giving the vision message to Steven coming out giving the technology message, and then they made kind of Rick the bad guy with the okay, here's the licensing changes. But I think he put a good spin on it, and made it to more of a positive change where a lot of people initially will probably not be too happy with the change, but I think you really need to sit down, understand all the changes, see what they actually mean to your environment to be able to understand, how they'll impact you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rick started out his presentation with and some people were commenting on Twitter about that. How here comes the bad news. But after I read like the VMware the licensing white paper that they published, and took some time to think about it, and maybe it's not as bad as I first thought, and I can kind of see where they're going to a more pay per consumption type model. But I do see I think it'll be a big deal for right sizing and those third party companies.
Which is a good thing, because it's kind of forces you to right size your environment and to manage your environment and stay on top of it. So you can't just go willy nilly anymore and to throw VMs everywhere without now there's repercussions of that. So
that's right. So. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. At least they didn't go with the per VM pricing model. I think that would have been much worse.
Well, yeah, because when you think about it, what a VM could be, this, as they showed in the video, a monster VM, a huge VM, or it could be a little tiny appliance, and then you're getting charged equally for both of those. So, at least this is a little bit more fair in that it actually, it's however you have your VM size, and if you have them all small, obviously you can scale pretty well. But if you have big VMs, you're going to have to pay more.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. I like the new idea of VMware offering the first cloud infrastructure suite. I guess all the pieces were really there before, but I never thought of it in that way. Like, here's a suite you get. It's still all priced separately and everything, but like, okay, we're going to use the cloud infrastructure suite and like automate our whole infrastructure. I guess it seems like more they're pushing that sort of concept, like this entire data center.
Yeah, they had one good graphic on that where they had them all stacked on top of each other, from vSphere on the bottom to
the different tiers,
the vShield to the vOperations Manager, and all that, all the way up to the vCloud Director. So they definitely have all the pieces now to make that suite, all the components in that, and the product continues to mature and come together. To be offer, a complete cloud solution. And
before it always seemed more like, here's vSphere, and then there's a bunch of different management pieces, and if you want to do a cloud, here's vCloud Director, and here's Chargeback, and here's, Orchestrator, and all these different things. But now it seems like it's more coming together, like, this is how it all fits together, and this is how you're going to use it. So
and a lot of those came from acquisitions, and it takes time to fit those and make the puzzle well-fitting and complete.
So what do you think about the new features?
Obviously, storage was really big in this release. I think if you look at all the features in total, they barely touch networking at all.
Yeah.
Storage was probably half this release when it comes to features and that. The big one obviously is like storage DRS, where it fills in that missing gap of being able to balance your loads across hosts and data stores based on storage resource consumption. So that was a big one. Some of the other cool features, the storage profiles with the new vStorage APIs for storage awareness. The new virtual storage or vSphere storage appliance that they released to be a VSA to turn your local storage into shared storage. That we looked at that obviously during the beta and that, and it seemed like it was kind of not up. It's new. It's a 1.0 product, didn't have all the features that some of the more robust and mature products have. The pricing seemed a bit steep as well when they finally announced the pricing on it, where it seemed to be kind of out of the range of the SMB range, where it was hitting up to the where you could actually go out and buy a storage array for that amount. So
I can see it seems like they're trying to be sort of competitive with it, almost in the sense of here's a storage array, but it doesn't have redundancy and it's not that integrated with vSphere, and it's has higher configuration time involved to get it going, and here's ours, and maybe they're the same price, but ours has these benefits. So it almost seems like they're trying to be competitive, which is fine, I guess. They got to make money, but I was hoping the VSA would be just like free.
Exactly.
Like for the SMB customers, here you go. Use vSphere 5, you get this VSA. It's all good. It's all free.
Because if you look at it, vSphere is not that great unless you have shared storage, because most of the features rely on it. So for the SMB market, maybe they can't afford these big storage arrays to use those features. Like high availability is a real big one, I think, that is handy to have in any environment. So it all comes down to shared storage, and that VSA obviously gives you a more affordable way of getting shared storage than having to buy out these big storage arrays to do it and that. So.
Yeah, I'll have to try it out for myself. One of the things they were stressing is that you can have, this shared storage up and running in 5 clicks. Which, might be kind of cool compared to configuring,
Yeah, because you've done things on like OpenFiler and that.
Yeah,
that
OpenFiler.
Pretty complicated.
It's free and it works, but it's also not supported, and it doesn't have redundancy, and it's a pain to set up, So, well, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. But a lot of cool new stuff.
There was one in particular that I saw a slide on it, and when we did the briefings and that, but we didn't go into a lot of detail on it. And when I was talking to Duncan earlier about it, he kind of covered it more. Was the new mirrored storage vMotion, which is a new way of doing storage vMotion. In vSphere 4, what happened was it relied on change block tracking to actually track the blocks that change while the storage vMotion is occurring, and then it takes those change blocks and writes them over once that's complete. Now in vSphere 5, they've gone away from that model, and they got this new mirroring thing where they're actually doing almost like a synchronous write, where they're writing to both devices at the same time, both the source and the destination, whenever any writes occurred. So it's a lot more efficient in that you're not having to rely on the change block tracking, which can fall behind in a lot of cases when there's a lot of I/O going. And it's just a better way of doing it compared to the older ways and that. So
interesting.
I'd like to find out more about that. But that was pretty cool, where actually it uses a new process now to track all the changes that occur while you're doing a storage motion. So.
Yeah, I'll have to try that. I have to look at that. There's a lot of new features in there that they just didn't mention.
Yeah, like storage vMotion now, you can do it with snapshots, whereas in vSphere 4 you couldn't. Obviously, with storage DRS, you're going to be doing a lot of storage vMotions in a lot of cases. So I think that's a good one, where if you have VMs with snapshots, you're now eligible to move between data stores with snapshots.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, ESX is gone, and
goodbye
ESX, Service Console. ESXi now has a firewall that's built into it. It's a stateless firewall.
I haven't really looked at that. I know you couldn't really touch it before. How different is it in this release?
Well, before it was, you really just had services. Like you could control
which services
you wanted to start. And now if you look right below that same place where you configure your services, now there's like the ports that are associated with those services, and like you can, but it's still really based on the services. So like you'd have to go to the actual file in the ESXi server to add new services and add new ports. But you can open and close the ports, and really, I think to me the only change is it's a firewall protecting those services kind of thing, and protecting the whole server except for those ports that are open for the particular services.
Okay.
So it's not like a real firewall where you could go in there and you could say, okay, I want to open, TCP port 123 for, this IP address inbound. It doesn't have that full firewall
like
configuration.
NTP or FTP, whatever service that you're trying to open up.
Yeah.
But I think in most cases, with ESXi being such a limited management console, you're not going to want to do a whole lot there.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the ESXi firewall, it almost seemed like a feature where they could just say, yes, we have a firewall. One of those things where, because ESX had the firewall, they don't want to get rid of ESX and then say, well, here's ESXi now, and no, it doesn't have a firewall. The old one used to, So I don't know. It almost seemed like we have a firewall, a checkbox kind of thing. So I don't know. Interesting. I also wrote an article about VMware Data Recovery is now version 2.0.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So they upped the revision on that, and they added some new features.
And vShield went to 5.0, right?
Oh, really? I hadn't noticed the version on that.
Yeah. I think they went more in line with.
Okay.
There's a couple of things that now went online. It's no longer VMFS3, it's VMFS5, and that. So in vSphere 4, you still had, I think it was up to like VMFS 3.46 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's right to 5. It's a seamless upgrade. You don't have to blow away your data stores to do anything. You can upgrade it in place without destroying data and that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just another. There's obviously going to be a whole upgrade path to doing everything, where it typically starts at Vcenter server and then goes down to VM, the storage, and stuff like that. So
yeah, and then speaking of vCenter server, they've got the vCenter Linux-based virtual appliance
officially now.
Yeah,
I think it was an experimental one or they kind of had something out there.
Yeah, there's like an experimental, I think.
The interesting thing I found about that was it doesn't support SQL Server at all. It comes bundled with internally DB2 Express, and externally you can use DB2 or Oracle. You can't use SQL Server.
Oh, really?
And
interesting.
So I think they're really trying to please these shops that have been crying for ages now that we don't want to rely on Microsoft products to use vSphere, and they've partially done that with the Appliance, with the support for other databases, and with the new the Flex. Have you played with the Flex client yet? The new web UI.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think compared to the old?
It's pretty, and you could do, I would guess, 70% of your normal day-to-day stuff in it. But you still need the vSphere client to do that other 30%.
And from the slides I was reading, it sounded like, because the Flex client's been worked for a long time. I'd say 3 years at least. I was part of a usability study that was kind of trying to get feedback on what you thought of it and that years ago and that. So I thought it would have made its appearance before then, but now it's finally here. And from the slides I was reading and the slide decks, the briefings we were on, it sounded like that this is the future. The vSphere client, the cPound client will eventually go away, and this will replace all that. It's obviously going to be a lot of development work to put all that into this. So I think this is the first step. And getting the the new client out there, and then expanding it to do more and more, just like they're trying to do with the iPad client, to give it more functionality. Where at some point they may just completely replace the vSphere client with it.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool. Like to get it going, first you had to load the vSphere web client server, they call it in parentheses, which is a confusing term. You had to load that on the vCenter server, and then that brought up a web interface. And then you actually had to install Adobe Flash on your vCenter server. Well, I guess you could have gone and taken the URL and done it on a client. But anyway, I had to install Flash on my server so that I could activate the server.
Oh, okay.
And then that gave me the URL to go and use on my client, which had to have Flash also to use the new Flex client.
But I think it's pre-built into the appliance, the Linux appliance. So you don't have to do all that. That's all set up.
Really?
It's set compatible with the appliance. So I think with the appliance, you deploy it. There's a web UI to configure it, and then obviously it's just like a normal vCenter server without the exception that you can't do linked mode. There's no linked mode with the appliances, and I think that was about it. It does everything.
Yeah, I'll have to try it with the appliance, because I just tried it on the regular, Windows server that had vCenter installed. So interesting.
So yeah, lots of big new stuff. And now, as far as the release date goes, they're not saying when. They're not going to announce the release date at any point. It'll just appear one day, and obviously it's probably going to be sometime in the next few weeks. Obviously before VMworld, so have to have a little pool going on what date it's going to hit, but.
Yeah.
What have they done in the past? They've typically done it, was it like on a Monday, Tuesday or something, or?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just have to see.
Yeah. I know they're waiting for a lot of the companion products, because this release has a lot of the products all bundled together, where the previous release they had products that took months and months to be compatible with the new version. Now they're trying to roll that all into one big release in that, so they're kind of waiting on all that stuff to catch up. So
is it like just VMware View? Is that the only thing I think that won't be compatible with vSphere 5? Or
yeah, I
one
think
of the main things.
vShield is, the vCloud is, the SRM is, and that. But
well, that's another thing we didn't talk about. SRM, the new host-based replication in SRM.
I love that feature. That's definitely cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, to me, that's one of the best values in the new whole vSphere 5 suite is the host-based replication, because it's like for $195 per VM, you have to buy a 25 pack, but you can get host-based replication and not have to buy a SAN with hardware-based replication.
Yeah, expensive.
So,
Yeah, so that's a cool feature for sure. Where it's do you have to buy it in 25 VM packs?
Yeah, you do have to buy a 25 pack, but so it's still just like $5,000, but you could replicate 25 virtual machines. I mean, I wish you could buy it per virtual machine.
Yeah, if you only want 10 or whatever. So that's another definitely cool feature in that look forward to them pulling the trigger and everything actually coming out and being available.
Yeah. So, well, it's been exciting to be here.
It has.
We got to see, Steve Harrod and Paul Moritz just
right
a few feet away. Yeah, I was snapping pictures and everything.
We had Duncan Epping here.
Yeah, we did an interview with Duncan.
A lot of some of the other VMware staff, Mike Adams and that, and of course John Troyer was here, and so it was a fun event overall.
Thank you for watching this episode of vChat, the latest in virtualization and cloud computing news and how-to. Eric, Simon, and David want your feedback, so send questions or ideas for future vChat topics to vchat@trainsignal.com.